Welcome back to the Rings of Power podcast, because Lorecast might mean something else now. We are the Lorehounds, your guides to Tolkien's world of Middle-earth, and with me tonight are going to be the regular team for Season 2 coverage. We finally decided it. David.
Hello.
And Marilyn.
Hello.
Marilyn Arpakila here to join us for every single episode of Season 2 of the Rings of Power. What an enjoyment and excitement, something.
Yes. You're sweet.
Pretty exciting, given that it all started so long ago.
Yes.
When with an email about what Barovians were.
Yes.
And here we are. And you with your own podcasts.
I know.
And you on Acolyte podcasts and other kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. Best email I ever sent in my life.
Absolutely.
And we're so glad you sent it. Now, if other people want to send in emails to us to join in on the conversation, they can send an email to lotr@thelorehounds.com. They can go to thelorehounds.com/contact, and they can post in our Discord server, which now the Rings of Power Season 2 General Chatter channel is up. You can find it now. We are very excited. David, do you want to talk quickly about what we're doing with Season Pass and subscriber benefits?
Yes. So we have a lot of folks who stick around and they like to subscribe on our Supercast or on our Patreon site because they're just into all the different stories and IP genres and the community, all of that kind of stuff. And then there's other folks who are they come around just for a particular show, just for a particular topic, House of the Dragon, Star Wars content, and of course, Lord of the Rings content, Tolkien content. And so what we figured out was, a lot of those folks want to help out and they want to support the community and be involved, throw us a few bucks. But subscribing to Patreon or just another subscription, another monthly recurring, then you have to remember to cancel it, It just gets all sticky. So we said, well, hey, why don't we use our cool features that we have on our Supercast site that allow us to do a one-time flat charge for a bunch of content that we produce around a particular show. So we call that a season pass. You pay $10. You get all of our coverage of the season, ad-free, early access. We are also, what else we're going to throw in there, John? We're going to throw in the Second Age.
Show Guide and the Lorecast. Oh yeah, and we're gonna do the Second Age. Yeah,
so you'll get all of the Second Age ad free as well, and then we're going to do. This is the fun thing that we just decided, just on off air. We figured this out. We're going to do a Lorecast every week where there's probably going to be some interesting, cool topic in every episode where we're going to do the Leo pointing meme and go, oh, that's cool. We should talk about that. And we're going to get together and we'll do a deep little dive on that, maybe half hour, 40 minutes or so on a particular aspect of the show. Mm-hmm. So that's all the podcast stuff you're going to get. And then there is the amazing, access to Rings and Rituals as well. Is that what you're posting, Marilyn? Oh, question mark?
Why not?
Okay. Then we have another thing. Well, we'll talk about that later, but really quick, I want to talk about the show guide. We've been using the Notion platform for a while for a couple of things. And then, I don't know, John put something in his pipe weed and he took off like in a blaze of glory, like Gandalf's fireworks. And he put together this amazing House of the Dragon show guide. I was messing around with it a little bit for True Detective, and what was the other one? We did a little bit for Shogun, but really when it came to House of the Dragon, we kind of exploded. And Aaron and Brian 8063 from our Discord helped out a lot, and then John has already started running on the show guide for Rings of Power. It's going to have an on-screen character guide, so you can see who the people are. There's little pictures, there's links to bios, there's links to all the different people that a particular character might be related to. There's going to be some historical character guide information, location guides. We talked about putting some artifact guides on there, and then each week we will do a visual guide to the episode. So John will take screenshots, he'll write a little scene-by-scene synopsises, and then that'll be there for every single episode, usually within a day after the episode airs. And then that's what we use for our episode and episode by episode breakdown. So if you're seeing that, you can sort of follow along, if you will, with how we're going to break down the episode. And we have screenshots and little descriptors. And so you get all of that content and that amazing resource for $10 flat, no recurring charge. You're done with that. And it's turned out to be really successful and reasonably popular for House of the Dragon. I think people really like it a lot. Because, like I said, a lot of people just come in, they're just here for one particular show or one particular topic, and then they're off again until the next thing of interest. And they want to support and they want to help out. And we figured that that's a kind of a good way to do that. Joan, do you want to talk a little bit more about the show guide specifically?
Well, it's called The One Guide to Rule Them All, by the way. That's what I've named it.
Imagine that.
And Marilyn has been helping me do the bios for all the characters, and that's been super helpful. So I appreciate that, Marilyn.
So good.
It's fun, and it's helpful for me too. Keep all these backgrounds straight in my mind.
Yeah, it's shaping up. I think we have all the characters in. We just got to fill out like images and things like that. We're going to fill out some details on locations, and then yes, I have already started the artifact guide. So
very cool.
Things like the Palantir of Numenor, that's going to have an entry, or it already does actually. The rings will get entries as they are made, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Oh, cool. Yeah. I really found that guide incredibly helpful in going through House of the Dragon, because as you know, I don't watch the series.
Except you write in every week.
You're a very loyal feedbacker, Marilyn.
Every week that there is something that I feel I can usefully comment on.
Oh, right.
But it keeps me up to date with the show, even though I have no interest in watching it, because I don't want to have all those images just scrape off the back of my eyeballs. So
instead, you'll just have me describe them in vivid detail in the show guide.
Now, if you're interested and you're like, hey, what is this thing they're talking about? Is this show guide really worth it or whatever? If you go to our website, lorehounds.com, and scroll down on the
Lorehounds.com, gets a 404 error.
Yes.
Lorehounds.com. Scroll down a little bit on the main page, and you'll see an embedded video of me doing a tour of the House of the Dragon show guide, seeing what kind of resources are there. We've still got construction tape up and scaffolding on the one guide to rule them all. But once it's done, maybe what I'll do is I'll do a little video again for that, and we'll refresh that so you can see, hey, is this something that I really want to get access to? Would this be helpful for me? And so anyway, you can see what the House of the Dragon one looks like if you go to our website.
My pride and joy of the One Guide to Rule Them All is that there is a race view, so you can divide by elves, men, dwarves, harfoots, orcs, etc. And there's also an elven faction view where you can divide the houses of the Noldor, the Sindar, the Sylvan Elves, etc. And then there's a Manish faction view where you can have the Southlanders, the House of Hador, the Numenorians. Actually, Marilyn added the House of Hador to be more specific.
Well, little details come along if it's important.
That's fair. That's
fair. Of their identity, I think it's important to include.
I see what you're saying. Elrond is not quite a Numenorian. He is.
No, he's not.
He. I think the closest current house would be the Numenorians, but alas.
Yeah. Well, I was even using this today when I was doing the prep for the trailer breakdown. Super helpful.
Cool.
Oh, right. Who was the actor for that? And just all kinds of great information. So.
All right. Well, that's enough salesmanship. Shall we talk about this trailer? What's general thoughts and whatnot? Marilyn, do you want to start?
Sure. It's really packed and lots of vivid imagery. It moves quickly. We see Ents. Yay! Finally,
yes.
Possibly an Ent wife. We're not quite sure. Although I think the case is being made pretty well that it is in fact an Ent wife.
The visual language is there.
Yes, definitely. There's so many things going on, but I have to try and keep it straight in my mind as distinct from all of the behind the scenes that they're starting to throw at us. And for those of you who really don't like spoilers, just don't watch any of this, okay?
Even the trailer, I would say.
Even the trailer.
The trailers are really heavy into telling you exactly what's going to happen, I thought. Which
is an interesting change in perspective on the part of the company, I think. I'm not sure that I felt the same way about the first season, but wow, they just seem to be wanting to lay it all out.
My guess on that comment, just to interject slightly on that comment, is that they're trying to reestablish a little bit with the fandom after last season, and they're trying to really make the average fan feel like, okay, like I can watch this. There's, cool action happening. There's all kinds of stuff. And that's the modern trailer is really telling a lot of nuts and bolts of the storyline, so that you as a consumer, before you go in, you're like, yeah, I want to buy this. I want to get into this. And that is a modern trailer. I was looking at a trailer for Alien, the 1979 Alien movie. Had no plot or character or stuff in it, just a whole bunch of like weird visual images and sound and whatnot. They just don't do that anymore. People really have an expectation of pre-sell me on what I'm going to buy before I go in. And I think they're trying to rebuild a little bit from season 1 to make sure people feel good about season 2.
And the other thing is, when you do that sort of thing, you are somewhat less likely to have quite as strong an emotional reaction if people are not pleased with something. It kind of gets it over ahead of time. See what I mean? So that when they come in, they know, all right, I guess I have to expect this or that or the other thing, instead of, where did this come from?
Right.
Also, this is a story that is very concretely written, right? Like it's written all over the appendices of The Lord of the Rings. It's referenced throughout The Lord of the Rings. If you know the Third Age, you at least know where this is going. I think the tale of The Lord of the Rings is far more known than this tale of the Second Age.
Yes, and yet there are points that you can link to. There are certain beats that that have to take place, but in between them are these vast areas that you can really exercise creativity around. And that seems to be what they're doing. And some of what I'm seeing, I'm liking. I'll be interested to see. Some of it, I'm like, oh no, don't do that, please. But
I'm going to hurt someone over Tom Bombadil.
Well, for me, it's not so much about, that's not what Tolkien said. It was more about, oh gosh, I hate going along this road, as it were. So what about you, David? What did you think?
I was pretty wowed by this trailer. If I hadn't, been already in this world, I'd be like, whoa, this is cool. I'd watch this. Like we were just talking about sort of trailer mechanics a minute ago. As a average fan person, I think I got everything that I needed to. Like there's this dude, there's some sort of change, there's some rings, there's, some cool fight stuff happening. As a trailer, it was well built, and it really serves the purpose pretty well. Visually, again, it looks like they've dumped a lot of money into the, all levels of production. It looked great. It looked like I would expect it to, follow on from season 1. And I think, like both of you, I'm guessing both of you, because we haven't heard from John yet, but not only was this a packed trailer, it feels action-packed. It feels like, oh, wow, we're going to get some real intense battle scenes, a siege. They've got a cave troll. We've got, hopefully some cool elven fighting stuff going on. So it looked pretty exciting. And my excitement level is pretty high. I'm like, cool. Like, if this is what you're showing me is what you're going to give us, I'm here for it.
There's even a cavalry charge.
Yeah. Which looked pretty exciting. We'll talk about it when we get there. But yeah, I feel like, what they've shown me so far, I'm pretty excited to see. So, John?
Cool. Yeah, I mean, it got me very hyped. I really like the way they did a lot of things. Still not a fan of the ring design. I am not at all a fan of how they're doing Bombadil in the trailers, and I hope that it's a lot different once we see him in all his glory. But other than that, I think they're really selling me on Anatar. That stuff is awesome.
Yes,
that feels right. Bearer of gifts. It feels right that Celebrimbor is so like seduced almost by him.
Oh yeah.
And although I guess in the writings technically Celebrimbor is kind of the only one who does see through him in Eregion. But anyway, the point is. The rune stuff looks really cool, even if the Rangers aren't the most original design I've ever seen. I don't know what Nori's doing. That one kind of baffles me. But the Strangers arc seems like it could go an interesting place depending on what else the Bombadil in charge has to say. Very curious to see where Pharazôn goes. The shot of Muriel, like you pointed out, Marilyn, is worrying a bit, but we'll see what happens. And
the word ominous comes to mind.
And we're already getting Balrog. See, here's the thing. Here's what concerns me, is that are we doing too much if this is going to be a 5-season show? I feel like they're going really real far down the runway now.
Yeah. This feels packed, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Well, I have to think that, the final season is going to be nothing but The Last Alliance. And it might be part 2 of The Last Alliance. So.
But is there enough there, is my question. Because I don't want a whole season of war.
Well, I don't either, but, I'm not sitting around the table with everybody, so.
But you look at something like House of the Dragon, where that show is literally about a war. And they've spent so much time just doing, like, the interpersonal drama behind it.
Yeah.
Which makes it more meaningful when we finally have a battle. And I hope that they are doing more of that in Rings of Power ahead of going to the actual battle.
Yeah, I think that's what each season is supposed to be for. Is that you have, I think we're going to see a lot more development of Isildur in season 2.
All right.
In order to prepare us for him, so that when the time comes for the battle, we don't have to spend quite as much time saying, oh yes, well, you see Isildur, his brother had disappeared, now he's come back, and all of the emotional weight of that, and so on and so on and so on.
Right.
So, but that's just theorizing at this point.
Well, overall, I'm cautiously optimistic for this season. I did not say which trailer we're talking about, so maybe I should do that.
Oh, that's a good idea, yes.
This is the July 2024 San Diego Comic-Con trailer. We'll put it in the show notes, the link on YouTube. And you can find also in the show notes a visual guide to this built with Notion. So you can kind of get a taste of what we do with the show guides without having links to the actual, big character entries. But that will be available for public in the show notes. Then you'll have to subscribe if you want the full show guide. But for now, we like to do these trailer guides visually for everyone so you can follow along with us shot by shot.
Oh, cool. I better clean up my language. No.
All right, everyone. Let's get on with it. We have a first shot of Halbrand walking through gates. There was some interesting. By the way, we've all put our thoughts in under these images, and I was really interested to hear what you two had to say, especially David on this one. You're talking about the design of the gate.
Yeah, I just thought that as the gate is rising up, I just noticed the design of the gate, and it just feels nice that they put that kind of attention to detail on all kinds of things, like a gate or a lamp sconce or a balustrade, or all kinds of stuff. And so it just, seeing the gate, the design of the gate, put me right into the mood. But the other thing that the gate did was the vertical rise is like a curtain going up on a play.
Nice.
And we have Halbrand, entering, center stage, and we get a direct look at our, chief antagonist, soon to be, becoming something else. But at least where we left off from season 1, we know who we're dealing with, which is kind of funny because we were all like, "Is he or isn't he?" during season 1.
Yeah.
And now they're just like, nope, here he is, right? Well, you already know that. Well, you should already know that, but I just like that they're bringing him front and center for us. And so, yeah, with the visual of the gate, the design of the gate, and the curtain rising kind of action, I thought it was really cool.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Marilyn, you had some thoughts on where we might be?
Well, yeah, I think he's riding in. I think he's got a horse now.
Yep.
And I think he's riding into Lindon, because after all the stuff that went on at Region, Galadriel's already said, we're not going to treat with him. So I think what he's doing now is he's hastening to Lindon in order to start the work he needs to do with the elves of Lindon. Yeah, I do. And I think it has to do with that tree. I mean, I can talk about this more when we get to subsequent images. But the more I thought about it, the more I think David put an insert of a helmeted guard there. There's no way that the Southrons could produce something like that.
Oh, I thought it would be Númenórean, because there was explicit mention of, there's an old Númenórean outpost.
I just don't think he's going to have a lot of time even Pelargir, what possible reason could he have to go to Pelargir at this time? He doesn't have the 9 rings yet.
Right. I get that. I think perhaps the one excuse I could come up with for him going there is that we last saw him in Mordor, right, in the closing shot of last season. Mm-hmm. And that would be closer to Pelargir than any of the other cities we're talking about.
Yes, and we're dealing with Sauron, who can travel in the blink of an eye because
Fair
Sauron.
Enough.
So
fair enough. But also recall that the Southrons never found out that he was Sauron.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So he could just waltz right in there and be like, "Our rightful king, thank you for coming," and he could just collect everything he needs. And
but what does he need that they have at this point?
I don't know. Maybe he's going to turn them into supporters.
It's possible. It's possible. My sense is that a higher priority right now would be, gotta see if I can get my way into these elves now and corrupt them as soon as possible.
Yeah, it's just I don't know if he will go to Lindon. I think he's already done quite a lot to start the whole process with the rings, and he wants to finish it. And so we already see him with Celebrimbor in the trailer, right? Like, so I think that's going to be his main priority. Mm-hmm. And those do look like Numenorean colors to me on the armor.
Mm-hmm. In which case, he could be riding into Eregion in this image.
Mm.
But I just think that's highly unlikely in light of where we ended.
I don't think he's going to walk right back into Eregion as Halbrand.
Exactly my point.
Remind me, and I'm sure Marilyn, because you just did your season 1 rewatch. What was Halbrand's disposition at the end of season 1? I don't recall.
We don't know. The last we saw of this form, was on the imaginary raft floating in the imaginary sea. Once Galadriel comes back out of wherever Sauron had thrown her, it's just she and Elrond. And there's no trace of Halbrand at all.
Okay.
And she says to Celebrimbor and Elrond, we are not to treat with him. If he comes back, don't talk to him. Don't work with him.
Right.
So he's looking in this shot pretty worn. His clothes are pretty, dirty and rough. His hair doesn't look like he's put any conditioner in it for a little while. So I don't wonder if he's coming back from somewhere that he's been sort of exposed to the elements and whatnot, not living, an urbane lifestyle. Does that make sense?
It does. This is the problem, though, when you know that you're dealing with a Maiar.
Doesn't matter what he looks like.
No, it really doesn't matter.
He can just morph into anything. He's
good point.
He's a mighty morphin Sauron. Right. It's tough. Should we move on to the rings? The shot of the rings being tossed right onto that stone. Marilyn, you had discussed the rejection of the work, perhaps?
Well, as you say, it looks like somebody was tossing them down, and there's appear to be people in the background there.
Yep.
Long, flowy stuff, so probably elves, whether of Lindon or of Eregion, it's not sure. But given the scenes that follow, it seems as though we've come to Lindon with the 3 rings to try and convince Gil-galad that this is a good idea. And it looks to me as though Gil-galad just tossed the rings on this stone slab and rejected them.
I mean, he's certainly justified in being skeptical of them, right?
Oh, yeah.
What is this origin? Why does this suddenly work? David, you had done some comps to the Peter Jackson Nenya.
Yeah, and it's not, because we see this ring later on, and it's clearly not the same design. I thought, I got excited as I was doing the, frame by frame. I'm like, oh, wait, could it, and then later on, when I actually watched the whole trailer, instead of just trying to do a scene by scene analysis first, I was like, oh no, never mind. It's not.
I just think we're so far away from the Peter Jackson rings in this. Let's just let it go.
And it's really too bad. I'm afraid I have yet to see any of them that I like.
In fact, you point out later with Doran, so I'll go to it now. Doran the Third has this ring that's very jeweled. It's a big blue jewel.
Yeah.
And that's actually the only ring. The dwarven rings are the only ones that make sense, I think, to have huge jewels because they play on the greed of the dwarves. We know that Sauron had trouble dominating the dwarves, but the dwarves did become hoarders because of them.
And somewhere I've seen a picture of all 7 of them on a round table, round platter of some kind, and they're all like that. They all have these big chunky gems in them.
Yeah. So that I'm cool with.
They're also a big chunky design in terms of the bands. So, I mean, that at least I think makes more sense. I just think that the elven rings that they've come up with are not what I think of when I think of delicate elven work.
Right. David, you write that you think he's wearing Sauron's ring already, huh?
Who?
Early on, Doran the Third.
Later on. Yeah. Because there's the shot later of Doran the Fourth and Doran the Third talking, and he's telling him to take off the ring, and I'm pretty sure that's the same.
Yes,
scrolling down to that part there, but it's very far away. But it's not this ring that we're seeing hit the ground here.
No.
Right. No, I'm just comparing these ring designs with Doran the Third's.
I wonder if this blue ring that we are seeing hit the ground is later when we see the 3 elven hands with rings on them. I wonder if that's that same blue ring.
Yeah, I think you're looking at 2 of the 3 elven rings being thrown down here.
Yeah.
Well, and the third one is flung so hard that it bounces off of the platter and falls down at the feet of Galadriel.
Oh, there was a third one? I did the wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, boy. I clipped the thing too early. Or too late.
Okay.
So let's talk about more accessories. We have this nice hat made for Sauron, we think. David, you've got a similarity to the Jackson films for this?
Yeah, I again, like the ring, I was like, I was starting to I didn't watch the whole trailer first. I started trying to take it apart from the moment I watched it. And so I was looking at this crown, and it is very visually similar to the Peter Jackson Sauron crowns, but it is different. Definitely different. It speaks the same visual language, but it is not the same in design. And this thing I can't quite tell because the creature that's carrying it's like on a base, and maybe it's being held by some other device.
Right.
And then we've got these 3 very protrudy, spiky things,
right?
Which again speak to the Jackson design, but it is definitely not the same.
So I was thinking about, and Marilyn, you say you had a spoiler, so I'm kind of skipping over you.
Well, I just wanted to say that the spoiler came directly from Panda McKay.
Yeah, again, showrunners, let us watch the show. Just let us watch the freaking show. I don't need you to explain everything to me. Anyway, my point was, this is very Jackson Sauron. Agree with you, David. I wonder if, because we know by the Third Age, Sauron is bound to his Dark Lord form. He cannot take on a fair form anymore. And I know why in the Second Age, but I think this might be how it happens in the show, is that this is going to bind him to this form. Perhaps that's part of Adar's plan, is to make him sort of bound to the appearance of Mordor, rather than able to walk freely among the elves and men.
Waffle.
Waffle,
because
indeed.
The way that this thing is being carried, it's being supported by something else. So the creature carrying it isn't touching it.
Right.
So, maybe it's got some sort of static charge to it, and you don't want to, get zapped by it.
It's got evil juice.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And I want just quickly to go back on something. The first 3 shots, we have Halbrand, we have rings, and we have a Sauron crown. And it's like, boom, we're in Tolkien's world instantly, right? They're not, here and there, there's some drone shot flying over landscape. It's like, no, boom, boom, boom. Rings, evil dude, who becomes another, even, when he takes his full form, he's really evil. And that crown speaks to what we remember from the Jackson films. So they really instantly grab us with the lore and both the modern context for Lord of the Rings with the Jackson films, as well as what Tolkien was laying down with his stories.
Well, and they certainly spent plenty of time giving us beautiful landscapes in the first season.
Well, that was before James Cameron kicked them out of New Zealand.
Right. It may also be that they're not going to be doing as much of that because they filmed season 2 in the UK. So,
guys, why are we doing this? Why are we doing Avatar in New Zealand over The Lord of the Rings? Get over yourself, James Cameron.
I kind of like the fact that we can see English landscapes.
That's incorrect, Marilyn. Sorry.
Having just been there, I will say, riding around on the trains, it is. The English landscape is something, right?
It really is
something.
And this is what inspired a lot of what inspired Tolkien to write what he wrote.
Yeah. Well, it inspired Tolkien before a lot of it was built up too, which is why Peter Jackson went to New Zealand for it.
Of course.
Right. As well as I wonder. There's always business reasons too, right? You never film something big like this without, taking those things into account.
But that'll be something to keep an eye on too in season 2.
Right. So we've talked a little bit about Doran. He comes back later, so let's save that for later. Let's move on to Adar, standing with an orc army. Marilyn, you were saying this might be a younger Adar? Make your case.
Well, part of my case is WAFO. And by the way, for people who have not been following House of the Dragon, WAFO is an acronym for
Watch and Find Out.
Watch and Find Out, yes. So it's another way of saying spoiler alert or, that sort of thing. I think because we do know that Adar was at one point the faithful servant of Sauron. He's in a location which he's not going to find in the current Mordor that he just created. So it can't be moving forward because I don't think you can build up that kind of a castle that quickly.
Mm.
So I think it has to be a before.
And
they're almost making it look like he is not quite as disfigured as he was, although, of course, that might be because of the change in actor. But
right.
I don't know. Just looking at that face, it somehow, to me, looks younger. But I also am reasonably certain that this is happening in a context in which you have asked me not to say anymore, so I won't.
Yeah. Well, Payne and McKay are a little mouthy lately, so we have to be careful about what they have to say. David, you liked the visual language?
Yeah, the seething horde that's standing behind him, and they're writhing. They're can I say it? Seething. It just felt really great. He's stock still vertically standing up, and one of the things in photography and other visual stuff, a vertical line is strength, stability, calmness, but it just presents a very strong, solid thing to focus in on. He's perfectly still, just slightly off center of the film, head and shoulders above everything else, and below him are this seething mass of orcs, and it just paints just such a great thing. He's got this ocean of creatures that he's that he's got at his command, but he's calm, locked in, still. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants, and he knows how he's going to get it. And it just, I don't know, it feels good. I know we had an actor change, but so far, I think we get one line of dialogue from him in this trailer, and we get this one visual image. I'm good. I think they've got a good choice on their hands.
I agree.
Very good. Off to the elves again. We're back in Linden. It's a little gloomy out, but it looks like maybe the tree is healed or healing. David, you had some confirmation on the ring.
Yeah, in this scene, we clearly see it's a white silver ring. Silver often is referred to as white in these terms, and it is definitely not the Jackson ring. So yeah. And it falls at, this is Galadriel's dress here, right? We see it bounce right to her feet. And then, I don't know, the tree's not looking great to me. I don't know.
I agree.
I don't know if I don't know if this is one of those trailer tricks where the scene of the tree as we're coming around to it is a separate scene from when the ring falls down these steps. It could very well be because she's standing in the right place. There's some other things that could possibly be correct, but it's hard to say.
I think that what's going to happen is Galadriel is going to pick up the ring, put it on, and the tree's going to immediately start healing. And everyone's going to suddenly be sold on using these rings.
I like that. I think that's a good call.
Yeah, I definitely think this is the elves being gathered to see the tree healed. And the only question is, how are they going to do that? And John is probably right that it's going to be through the power of the mithril ring. And that will make me sad. The Silmithril. I'm still holding out hope that part of the reason why Sauron went directly to Lindon is to undo something that he had done to make the tree sick.
Well, Marilyn, hope is never mere.
Precisely, even when it is meager.
Yeah, I just think that this is going to be part of... Yeah, I think it's possible that Sauron was making the tree sick. But I think in this in this version of the Legendarium of this show, I think it is true that mithril is made from a Silmaril, and that is enough. Even if there is some darkness of Sauron involved with the ring, which in the main Tolkien Legendarium, we know that the rings are generally free from the influence of Sauron. You know, that gets a little hazy later, but the point is, even if there is a little bit of influence because he helped teach them how to make it with alloys. Right.
There is a back door, as it were.
Right.
Which is called the One Ring.
There's a little bit of Neo in the Matrix kind of thing going on here. But I think that the fact that the Silmaril energy will be healing it, and they know that it's related to the Silmarils, I think that the Noldor will be all about it once they see it actually work.
Sure. So in this case, it's a question of Wafo, and none of us know what's going to happen.
Right. So now we have Galadriel actually picking up the ring. We kind of talked about what might happen, but did we already basically talk about this?
Kind of. I mean, you put your theory out of she puts on the ring and it does something. And this is, of course, we have Elrond, shouting no. And again, it feels like this is all one scene. I don't think they're playing tricksy with cutting it up. So I'm guessing that he's not happy about her doing that.
Yeah, well, no is usually a pretty good indicator of distress. I'm not comfortable with this vibe. They're making even the elven rings look, seductive and whatnot. And, Elrond's probably not wrong that this is in effect doing exactly what Sauron wants.
But is he saying no to her putting on the ring or no to something else? Like, we don't know. Maybe there's stuff that we're not seeing yet in this scene. And so we don't know what he's actually reacting to.
They may be tricksy, as you were saying.
It could be Gil-galad throwing down the rings, right? Yeah. It could be, he's like, don't waste those.
Yeah. Although subsequently, there are scenes in which he basically says, or Galadriel is responding to his doubt. And, I really do think that Elrond is very reluctant to make use of these rings.
But we know that by the time of the Lord of the Rings, he is very much a ring bearer.
Yes.
One of these.
Well, right now he's not even himself a ring bearer. So he's just watching this all as herald of Gil-galad.
And even it might be a little bit hypocritical, but there is lore reason behind it. He is the one who cautions Boromir, you cannot use the One Ring for yourself, right?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to, we got the logo shot.
Yes. And
David, you've got something to say here.
Yeah, just it was a nice little thing as we get the crossfade to the next shot, the Prime logo becomes corrupted. It loses its lustery golden shine and starts to tarnish from the middle out. And I just thought, okay, nice one, nice little fun little trick there to let us know what's going on, subtly let us know what's going on.
Yeah, it's a good catch.
Right. Then we get this quick shot of the tree nice and healed, and everyone's happy and go lucky together. We've already talked about what could and could not be healing the tree. Then we get the ring bearers with their hands together, and there's a bunch of. Can you say your phrase, Marilyn? It's very funny.
Oh, the 3 extra rings are just High King Bling.
High King Bling. I love it.
I mean, Gil-galad is just like, what ring do I put this? What finger do I put this ring on? I don't have any room left.
I've run out of fingers.
So that's interesting then, because I picked up on that as well, is that there are 6 rings. But if the blue ring that we see fall with the white ring is the other one that we're talking about, and then we have the red one on this third hand, then yeah, those other 2 gold rings and then that other sort of opalescent ring that's on his index finger, they're just king bling, as you say.
Yeah, I mean, he's inherited whatever remaining jewels there are of the Noldor. He is the one remaining High King. So all of those various lines just all kind of feed into him. So whatever remains is for him to use as display and whatever else in his role as High King of the Elves.
So I'm scrubbing back and forth here on this a little bit, and as Galadriel is walking up the steps to Gil-galad, there's another person standing in front of him. Gil has his hands out with his fingers splayed already. The other unidentified figure is lifting their hand up as Galadriel is mounting the steps. So I think these 2 scenes are absolutely back to back. So seeing the 3 hands like this, the preceding shot of the tree is the in sequence is the shot.
Right.
So whoever that third figure is that's standing there talking next to Gil, sorry, I'm just going to call him Gil, because we're buds like that.
You're going to get added for that one. I mean, that's too casual. This is High King Gil-galad.
I am freaking out about my pronunciations already.
And I've already been saying Gil-galad a little wrong. It really should be Gil-galad.
Yes, Gil-galad. So anyway, the person next to Gil-galad is that third ring bearer that's wearing the red ring.
And we all know who this is.
Yeah, I think we should just use the name because he comes up later in here. It's Círdan the Shipwright.
Yep.
Okay.
He's openly cast. This is going to be a major player this season.
And what a marvelous casting he has.
Yeah, he looks great.
Yeah.
Looks great. Isn't he from Foundation?
Yes. He was Belriosi.
He was Belrios, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Yep.
Do you guys have that already in the character guide?
Yes.
Okay, there you go. I didn't do it.
Oh, I thought you did.
Maybe I did. I don't know.
I think you did.
I've been working on this for like 2 months, so I might forget some things I put in there.
Let's see if I can find him.
Well, while you do that, why don't we go to Elrond? You have all become collaborators, he says.
Well, just one more comment here. I wonder what it was that convinced Gil-galad to put that blue ring on when the last thing we heard him saying was, who is this man?
Maybe he was like, oh, it's not a man, it's a Maya. I'm okay with that now.
Well,
doesn't matter which Maya it is.
Works right up to the point where you hear the name Sauron, and then in that theory kind of is a little more dubious.
Right. And you have some comments on the wisdom of Elrond, Marilyn?
Well, they really do seem to be putting Elrond in the place of the wisest of them all. They've made Galadriel very impetuous and so forth, and she's definitely taken a strong hit through her trusting of Halbrand and her deception by Sauron.
Right.
Gil-galad is just not, I don't know. He's beginning to show bits of wisdom here and there. But I think Elrond is in the place of observer. So he's able to kind of stand back and watch all of this going on and think about it and process it. And between that and the fact that he does have all of this inheritance from elves and humans, and his father's a star, I just think they've really chosen him as the perspective of someone who is saying, let's look at this more closely.
Right.
You're all become his collaborators is the line that he uses. And that might be an overstatement, but it also might be well to listen to what he's saying.
Elrond saying, I might be young now, but one day I will be Hugo. What's his last name? Weaving?
Weaving.
Hugo Weaving. And I will furrow my brow so hard that you will not be able to sleep at night.
I'm sorry, I'll take this Elrond any day over Hugo Weaving's Elrond. It just, this is the man who is as kind as summer, and he keeps showing that in so many different ways and times. I love it.
I absolutely adore Hugo Weaving's Elrond, but they indeed did not really capture the Last Homely House vibe.
No. And I don't think he could have changed that much in the 60 or 70 years. I don't have the math in front of me right now.
No.
Between The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. Remember,
Right.
Elf, they don't age that fast.
Right. All right. So we get this landscape shot. What's going on? David, you have a theory?
It looks like Galadriel and Elrond on some sort of side quest. They're, riding horses through the forest. And then if you look on, when we get the wide shot, there are structures in the hillside there that look very elvish construction to me.
Yeah, I think they're riding from Lindon to Elregion, and the showrunners have finally decided to show us that that's not just an afternoon stroll.
Right, they're not jetpacking over.
Right. Not the impression they gave us in the first season.
Yeah, there was a very strange jetpack from basically the Southlands to Eregion, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's a hike. That's a big hike. I don't know why they did that.
Jazz hands.
Indeed.
Just let's progress the plot here, because it's the last episode and we don't have time to explain that it actually took 3 months. And besides, if it did, how could this human supposedly possibly survive that long?
Right. And then there's another landscape shot of the mountains. And Marilyn, you've got Miromir. I don't even remember this name. So can you explain?
Sure. Miromir is the lake into which the first Durin looked and saw the crown of stars over his head.
Oh.
It's on the eastern side of the Misty Mountains, at the eastern door of Khazad-dûm.
Okay.
I was looking into the mountains and saying, okay, here's a whole bunch of very impressive looking mountains, and there's a body of water close by. If they're following Middle-earth geography, Miromir is about the first, if not only place I could think of that would match this. But I'm sure listeners, please write in and tell me what I'm overlooking.
Right at the beginning of that shot, there's a lake to the left of the frame.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, I'm in.
And there are, the shot tricks you, because as the horse riders exit onto the right, we then move in sort of to the left and we sort of circle. It's a very Peter Jackson helicopter around a mountain, ridge type of shot. But there's at least 5 figures on foot climbing this ridgeline, traversing up this ridgeline. And then we cut to the next shot of this sort of broken bridge thing. So whatever side quest these folks are on, who is it? How? There's at least 5 people there. What are they up to? Where are they going? Where are they coming from?
I mean, if they are, elves going back to Khazad-dûm, they're kind of on the wrong side of the Misty Mountains. So that kind of spoils it for me. But it could be that they're going to Khazad-dûm and the lake was just a pretty lake that happened to be there as part of the scenery and they left it in.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All I can say is
I have no memory of this place.
Very nicely put. Very nicely
John
placed.
likes his sound effects.
It's perfect for this conversation because Gandalf has no memory of this place in Khazad-dûm, and neither do the rest of us. So, well done, John.
All right. So speaking of Khazad-dûm, Marilyn, we got into a dispute in the writings next, which is this shot of, it looks like two. To me, it looks like 2 perspectives of the same shot.
I agree.
Where there is a bridge that is broken, and in one shot it's behind Galadriel and Elrond, and in the other shot it's looking up at them.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It does look like it's the same shot. It's just initially looking at the things that they're from behind them going forward. It looks as I thought that might be some stone and so on, because this bridge is fairly, complex and complicated structure with the poles on either side and the carved figures on top. And I can't think of a place that would have that kind of structural and architectural stuff going on with trees growing around it.
Well, I will speculate here baselessly.
Please.
And say,
Please.
Beleriand sank, right? And ostensibly, Linden would have been connected to the rest of Beleriand.
Oh, yeah.
And I wonder if it's just that this is a bridge that used to connect Linden to the rest of Beleriand.
Interesting. The thing is, there was a whole mountain range between Beleriand and the rest of Middle-earth.
Oh, Marilyn, don't shoot me down that quick.
I'm sorry.
I'm so bad at the geography. I just put out an episode with me and Do Betta.
Which was spectacular, and anybody at all interested in Tolkien should definitely listen to it. You guys were fabulous.
He's great, and he's really good at the geography, and I'm really glad he came on the podcast. I was terrified to cover that chapter. I thought I was going to have to bribe somebody to cover it with me. And he's like, I gave him a list of 5 chapters, and he said, I want of Beleriand and its realms, and I could not believe it.
Well, that's who you want to have at your side then.
Exactly. I was super impressed with him. But anyway, David, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, just that from what we're seeing with Galadriel, with her quiver and bow here, and what Elrond is wearing as well. This is a preceding scene to later on when we see them fighting. Yeah. It's mixed in with the shots of like the cavalry charge and whatnot, but it's of that same scenario. So this is something just before they get into some trouble.
Yes, and alas, if this is connected to them fighting the whites, this is going to be something that I think is going to make a lot of the ones who really wanted to follow the books very unhappy, because I just can't think of any peoples who had this type of capability who were active in the region of, the Barrow Downs, the Old Forest, etc., etc. That happens in the Third Age.
Well, so does the Balrog.
Yeah, so there's maybe a little more seepage going on here than...
I think it's going to get real squishy, and we're just going to have to live with it.
I think so too. I mean, the appearance of whites don't trouble me that much. I wish they hadn't called them Barrow whites, because then you could say, hey, it could be,
right,
kings and queens of the Proto-Rohirrim. Granted, they'd have to have crossed the Misty Mountains, but hey, they're whites. They can do stuff.
Exactly.
Is there any chance that these two are on a side quest kind of thing to do something in the Southlands and to find what's his name?
Isildur?
No, to find Arondir.
I don't think so. I don't think they really care about Arondir that much. Because
we see him fighting later, and I'd need to look a little bit more closely at that fight, those shots. But I'm wondering if there isn't something going on there.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time imagining within the context of the story.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Where this is and why they are, dressed up for,
forest adventures.
Adventures, hunting, combat.
I think they're going to be too busy to get down there. I think what we are more likely to see is a team up between Arondir and Isildur.
Oh, clearly. We're already seeing that.
Right.
Unquestionably, yeah.
Because, at some point, from a story construction thing is, if you've got, we don't want too many threads out there, right? Are they going to start to collapse some of these story threads?
Yeah, I really think they're going to keep the South for the Númenóreans and for whoever is around Pelagir. And Arondir and any other Sylvan elves that survived are going to be the only elves that are going to be represented in that. But it looks like Arondir and Isildur are going to be the buddy cop thing.
Right.
Okay.
They sure are. All right, one last shot before we take a quick break. The shouting orc. I feel like we're all just making jokes about it.
Yeah, looks good. Great practical effects. This could be from that shot earlier of the seething masses.
I think so, yeah.
Kind of has the same lighting feel.
Right.
And John also tells us that this is what he looks like before he's had his coffee. So
It's true.
be warned.
Factual.
Be warned.
All right, everyone. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Go get your coffee, John.
All this may be by his design, Elrond says, as we see Halbrand looming. Looks like a Region, doesn't it?
Well, I think the Halbrand form is going to be mostly in a Region. I don't know how they're going to do the big reveal of Middle-earth's very own Lucifer. But there's something about that tower that made me think of the sea, which could lend some credence to it, him still being in Lindon, but I don't know. I don't think we have enough information.
Or Pelargir, right? Like it's a port city.
You really want him to go to Pelargir?
I think he's going to. We got explicit mention of Pelargir last season, right? We got explicit mention that the Southlanders are going there right now. I think there's a high probability that on his way back to the Elven territories, he is going to pay a visit to his because at the end of the day, what does Sauron want, right? He wants underlings, and he has a whole group of underlings already who think he's the bomb.
Yes, and he also has a whole bunch of orcs ready-made.
But are they
gathered
with him
together
yet?
by Adar? I mean, because Sauron, that will be with him by the time he's done with Adar. I mean, there has to be a big confrontation between the two of them, if not this season, the next season. I hope they're not going to wait that long.
Yeah.
And I really think that right now, his focus is on ensnaring the elves. That's why he decided to glom on to Galadriel and do all that sort of thing. I truly think at this point for him, the Southlanders just are not of any account.
Yeah.
He may have some action already going on in Thrun. We know that eventually his focus will turn to Numenor, and there he has a much better quality of human, he would think, to, ensnare. But right now, it's got to be about the elves, because in his mind, they are the only ones who could possibly interfere with his big plans.
Although he has seen the might of Numenor already, hasn't he?
He
Which
has.
is a difference from the books.
Definitely. I think he's saying, okay, these guys seem to be on a good path from my perspective anyway. We'll just let them be for now. I'm just going to make a few more rings to ensnare some of the major dudes of Numenor, and I'll be all set.
Okay. I want to posit one more thing about Anatar.
Do. Go for it.
How powerful do we think that Sauron is compared to Adar? Because yes, he is a different class of being, but Adar is one of the first orcs, if not the first orc, right? So is he on the level of someone like Fingolfin who wounded Morgoth?
I don't think so.
Because Sauron's a level down Morgoth. So even if Adar is a level down Fingolfin, I think Sauron's going to have a tough battle ahead of him.
By the time Fingolfin attacked Morgoth had already dispersed so much of his power into all of his creatures, into the creatures he was creating, into the landscape, the whole idea of Middle-earth becoming Morgoth's ring. Every time he created new beings, he had to put some of his own power of malice into them. And he's having to control them. He was pretty weak when Fingolfin called him to single combat. And I mean, I'm not in any way trying to diss, so please don't at me, the achievement of Fingolfin by any manner of means. But Fingolfin, I think, was also much stronger than the Adar that we see now.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
After all,
but Morgoth
Adar
was
is
also an
big
order
too.
of magnitude stronger than Sauron. That's all I was trying to say in comparison.
Oh, absolutely. No, absolutely. I think he frittered away a lot of that strength, whereas I think Sauron is definitely, gathering his strength together and eventually going to pour all of it along with all of his malice into the One Ring.
He said, "Guys, I'm in my prime. Don't mess with me. I'm in my prime." Video.
So one more thing on this shot. Not a lore detail, but a visual detail. I think this is connected to the first shot we see of him walking through the portcullis of the gate.
Good call.
There's a horse behind him. He's wearing clothes that are tattered and looking very similar to what he was before. So, and his hair and just a physical appearance. So I think wherever he was in that first shot, this is sort of the, evening time of that same location.
Well, and to, towards John's point here, that is a lot more building than I think of when I think of Lindon. It does look like there's a lot more structures around, which would imply then that he has gone back to Oregion. I'm not sure why, but I'm sure that if that is the case, the showrunners and the writers will have had some reasons for him to be there.
I want to posit one more theory here before we move on to sorry, which is it possible that he used one of his greatest weapons, which is his tongue, and he went to Pelargir and he said, "Look, I, your rightful king, am angry. The Númenóreans came and they claimed to help us, but then they abandoned us. They went back on their ships without ever, giving us a second thought and left us to find our own way to Pelargir." And I wonder if he's going to sow division between the men of Middle-earth and the Númenóreans to, again, just try to cause chaos that prevents the peoples of Middle-earth from uniting against him.
It surely could be. I just don't know that the Númenóreans have been in Pelargir long enough to be producing that kind of architecture.
David, are you typing an essay over there?
Just writing, catching up on some note taking for the next, in a couple of scenes ahead.
Oh, okay.
Can you hear? Was it too loud?
Yeah. I'm just busting. See, now that I made that joke, I don't have to edit out the clickety clacks. So anyway, all right. So let's go. Let's go to the hand in the water. Looks like Círdan's hand, right?
Yeah,
I think so.
The red ring. Yeah,
it looks like the hand that we saw when the three hands were together.
Exactly.
As well. And I find it interesting that they spent so much time on this scene, with his hand above the water and then his hand going into the water and then his hand below the water. I mean, what?
So this is this looks to me like a saltwater. I
agree.
With the corals and whatnot, and that particular kind of fish. I'm guessing. What lore is there about that ring that he might be wearing here? Because the other interesting thing is that the fish swims right up to the ring. And is there something about this ring that is, like, why is this person putting their hand in the water? Why are they showing us this? And is there something that this ring does, whatever powers it helps to channel, focus, create, what have you, that the fish is the fish swimming to it is a little clue about what this ring does?
Well, the Ring of Fire, it warms hearts.
Gives you a little zhuzh.
It's supposed to encourage and support, perhaps. I might be pushing that a bit strongly. In terms of
is that then the ring that ends up with Gandalf that he's ended up carrying the whole time?
Exactly.
Yeah, might have made a couple of hobbits get away from the hearth for a little while.
Help him pry him loose a little bit.
In terms of lore, he was given one of the three because he was farthest away, because he was on the coast, and they figured it would be safe there. That they distributed the rings once they'd taken them off after Sauron put on the One Ring. They distributed them so that they would be harder to find. And so initially, Gil-galad wound up with two. He wound up with both the Ring of Fire and the Ring of Air. But then he gave the Ring of Fire to Círdan, who took it still further away from Eregion. That was their whole intention. Plus, let's face it, he's now, unless you count Adar, he's the oldest living elf remaining on Middle Earth.
Or are the Avari older?
I don't think so, because he was the same time as the Avari, wasn't he? It's just that he went all the way to the edge of the water. No. Círdan.
Oh, Círdan. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think you're right there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Gil-galad powerful because High King.
Right. Powerful also, because the Noldor said so, and Feanor was a meanie.
Yeah. So there's nothing that I can think of that indicates how Círdan used that ring. Speculation time, probably to encourage the remnant of elves that were living at the haven, to encourage them to stay and build the ships because he knew they were going to be needed, to encourage himself because he had wanted from day one to go to Valinor, and it was the Valar themselves who asked him to stay and build the ships and learn even more than he'd already learned of shipbuilding and sailing and all those other kinds of things. So, according to some of I think this is Unfinished Tales lore, but I think he probably needed some heartwarming.
Yeah, probably
in some of the watches of the night, because his was a very, very, very long time waiting for his heart's desire. Especially,
did he witness the burning of the ships at Alqualande? Or was that too far?
No, because he never left. He never saw Valinor until the very last ship sailed at the end of the fourth.
But they burned the ships on the side of Middle Earth, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, he was. I don't know what part of the coastline he was on.
Yeah,
he might have seen speculating. That. He might not. Sure.
We can save. This is a good topic. I think the history of Círdan and the history of elven seafaring is a good topic for a lorecast.
Well, I'm with it because he's one of my favorite elves.
Let's go to the figures being silhouetted by a burst of light. What is this, David? I'm going to go to you first.
I see. It looks like a cave. I see a lot of ice. I see some structures that visually speak to me of that symbol that we had in season 1, which was, the symbol of Sauron, but really was a map location when you turn it the right way around. So that feels like that to me. And then I'm just wild speculation. Is this have to do with the crown being impaled on somebody that we see a little bit later?
Oh, hold that thought, David.
Funny enough, it's actually Lord Beesbury.
Yeah, I'm thinking back to the image that we saw on the teaser of the great castle suddenly going and ice everywhere.
Oh, right.
I think this is probably related to that.
Okay. And you've got a big old Wafo sticker in the notes here. So
well, John put that there. I have yet to figure out how to get that to work on my iPad. I'm only learning as I go along with the whole intricacies of Notion. I have not sat down.
Oh, I just copied and put that in from my computer.
Yeah.
Because I made the Wafo sticker because we needed one.
Yes, you did. Yes, we do.
All right. So, yeah, I have no idea what's going on here. So I'm just going to pull us on to Gil-galad doing a dressing down of Galadriel, seems like.
Yeah, sure does.
Yikes. Marilyn, you were impressed by his toughness, huh?
Yeah, well, as I said, he doesn't look like an easy confessor. I would not want to be facing him in this mood.
Well, that spiky crown has a dual purpose.
That's one of his tools. At least it's laurel leaves and not, spikes on a gate or something.
And David?
Yeah, so the tree is looking pretty bare here. It's looking pretty scruffy as Gil-galad sort of walks up to the big bird watering dish there.
Good catch.
So I don't wonder if this is before the presentation of the rings that we see earlier on in the trailer, and they're debating, maybe the merits of, maybe they're aware of the rings have been presented or something like that, but they haven't activated and put them on yet.
Yeah. Well, as he says, we will discuss the rings once you have answered the question.
Yeah. And
who is that man?
Then there is, oh, look, and so I on my video player, we made got a copy of this, and I made a little standalone copy of it, and I can sort of scrub back and forth using the scroll wheel on my mouse. There are some people walking up in the woods behind them, so this may be a prelude to the later scenes that we see with these in the same location, because there's some colors in the dresses there, but. The thing that is interesting, I can kind of frame by frame scrub back and forth. And when we have the shot of Gil-galad talking down to Galadriel with Elrond in the background, there is a leaf that falls in the scene. And that's not by accident. There's no accidents in these shots. And then as the leaf finishes falling, Elrond glances up to the tree where, like, as if he's looking at, like, where did this leaf fall? So just interesting little details here about this. So yeah, that makes me think that this is before they activate the rings, because later we see the tree more healthy.
Excellent catch. I completely agree.
Very nice. We're at a yada yada stage of the outline where we've got a headshot of Sauron, followed by a little quick shot of Celebrimbor leaning against a door face forward.
Closing a door.
Yeah, I guess. Okay. All right.
From the weather outside. There we go. I think we've answered.
Outside is frightful. Go ahead.
I think we've answered the question of where Halbrand is.
Yeah.
He's there with Celebrimbor.
Yeah,
so
the door does look similar. Yeah.
And it's raining in that second shot of Halbrand that we see. It's rainy skies outside, and then in this we can see that it's raining outside. That's why Celebrimbor is closing the doors here.
Okay, here's a hilarious headcanon I'm putting together. Great job, David. So Halbrand comes back to Celebrimbor. He's like, "Hey, we got more work to do." Celebrimbor goes, no, get out. Galadriel told me you're Sauron, and Halbrand literally comes back in a fucking wig, and Celebrimbor's like, yeah, come on in.
I think you're right, John, because I've been wondering ever since I saw that they were still using Halbrand with elves. How are they going to make this transition? Is he going to just say, actually, this is who I really am? I was just putting myself in a more humble form so that I wouldn't overwhelm you with my gloriousness.
Yeah. I wonder if I wonder if they're trying to make it so that Celebrimbor does know it's Sauron, but he has plausible deniability.
I don't know. I mean, I don't think in the lore they knew it was Sauron. I think they just knew that he wasn't to be trusted because he was blocking his mind from everybody. And it wasn't until later on that the S name was applied to him.
Yeah.
But I may be wrong on that. Listeners, write in.
And also in the lore, Mithril was not from the Silmarils, so I think we're okay stretching things here.
Well, listen, the amount that has been stretched already, any little stretches we might do are probably going to be overlooked.
It's like butter over too much bread.
There you go.
So we've got the whites now. Let's talk about it. Marilyn, you have a lot more feelings about this than I do.
Well, I don't really have a lot of feelings about it. I mean, I'm not of the perspective of, oh, this is impossible. They weren't till the Third Age because they were new. All of that is perfectly true. And from a strict lore perspective, this is anachronistic. I think it's exciting for the first time somebody gets to depict whites on screen. And I think that's probably a good part of why they decided to do this. Yeah, I mean, I had posted something on the Discord about you could posit that the Proto-Rohirrim on the eastern side of the Misty Mountains had already started doing burial mounds for their kings, because they certainly did it by the time they became Rohirrim. And so if you had allowed for that geographic area, it could be perfectly possible to have whites. And in fact, it makes sense in terms of the lore Tolkien used, because we see whites most prominently in the Icelandic sagas, where we get, the Barrow whites are creatures that inhabit a body in a barrow, which is what we're talking about here as well. They're not dead bodies that were buried in a barrow that come back to life. Although sometimes they are. It just depends on which version you're reading.
Right.
But there's definitely more historical connection of whites to the northern sagas and so forth. So, yeah, as you said, the barrow thing is silly. So, nostalgia button.
Just hit the nostalgia button and move on. David, but you have some thoughts here too.
Yeah, I am seeing 5 figures coming out of the mist here. They look really scary with the blue eyes. There's a full moon. We've got some elves, ready to, kick some ass. I'm ready for some spooky fight scene stuff. So this looks great to me. Setting aside, the lore questions that we have just from a television standpoint, this looks pretty cool. It is the one sort of kung fu moment where everybody sort of, gets into their Avengers Assemble fight scene. Let's go. But, and I think we saw on an initial trailer, this looked a little hokey, but I think this is looking better now that they've got some more post-production on it. And I'm going to say that this is the same party, the same group of elves that we saw running along the ridgeline earlier on in the trailer.
Yeah. I remember either the showrunners themselves or people involved with the production made a point of saying that these have been animated by unwilling spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a slightly different touch to either Tolkien or to the sagas. So I'm going to find it interesting, if that is the case, what they do with that and how they make that clear.
So how did they get past the wall? That's my question. I don't know. I feel like Jon Snow has something to say about this. We get a really quick shot of Celebrimbor doing a whole "I've made a huge mistake" face. And then we go to the beginning of a love story, it seems like. Yes. Which is Anatar just coming out of light and flame. And Celebrimbor just absolutely looks in love at a smirking Anatar who says he's a sharer of gifts, which, if you don't know from the lore, Anatar means... What is it exactly? Is it bringer of gifts?
Lord of gifts.
Lord of gifts. Thank you.
Yes, there's been already some interesting, where I've heard that there's been some interesting scholarly writing from a queer perspective about what these long, lingering looks might mean. And I'll be very interested to see how they play it and how it can be read.
I'm shipping them.
Well, if they do something overt, I will be astounded, and props to them for doing that. Yeah. I think it makes a very interesting addition to this whole dynamic of how was Celebrimbor, quote unquote, deceived. Now, you could just build it all on the case of he wanted to exceed his grandfather, and that would be enough. But if you have this added layer, that really gives it a nice texture and some complexity.
Yeah. I agree. David?
Just looking at this, the dialogue is, he deceived me, right? So that's Galadriel replying to Gil-galad about he's no man, he deceived me. And then we get the flame, and then we get the voiceover, he is Sauron, right? So where they're disassociating the visuals from the voiceover. And when she says he's Sauron, that's when we get the what am I to call you? And we get this, flaming image of Anatar coming out of the forge, maybe. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's something about that. Yeah, because the forge is definitely behind him when we see him standing there.
I actually think those are the gates. I think those are the gates that he shut.
Okay.
And I think that Anatar manifested through those gates, and the fire that you're still seeing is the leftover flames of his manifestation.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just my reading of it.
I think it's hard to say. I think it's because the scale of the size of this, I think that is the forge, because we do see a quick shot later of an elvish workwoman opening or like pulling on a lever that fires up the gate. And we see those sort of doors of the forge. And that's about the same size And I think even when he says, "What am I to call you?" we can see it in the background there. So,
yeah, well, you've got the frame by frame in front of you, so you may be right.
I have to say, though, for Anatar, the head is looking really weird. The prosthetic changing of the physical, it looks a little weird to me.
It does in this particular shot. It's like he's got some funky barrette thing going on, which, lose that look, Anatar.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work for you.
And the magazine covers have looked fabulous. So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing in the shot. Maybe that is just a bad angle for him. You didn't get Anatar on his good day.
Yeah,
obviously. He just came out of a flaming forge, so.
Fair enough. Anatar then says, our work begins now in Celebrimbor's workshop. Pretty standard. And then we get a person riding a horse across a desert carrying, is that a flag?
Yeah, I would interpret that as some sort of standard or a banner of some sort.
Personal banner.
Yeah.
Representing a lord or a tribe or something like that.
But it's a pretty rickety one, so it would go along with the sort of motley crew look of that we see with the people with face masks.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think we're in Kroon, right? Because
this is a radical geographic change here, going from there to here.
So let's get into that. David, you pulled the shot of the telescope.
Yep.
Shot from the it looks like from Run of the Rangers here, or Raiders. What are they even?
Raiders.
And then we get the Raiders in their masks, which are, one of them is like a plague mask, and then we have some other strange designs. What's everyone's thought on this, Marilyn?
My first thought was sand people. Where are the banthas? Sorry, that's what I went to right away.
Sure, yeah.
I'll be very interested to see if they even
we'll Photoshop in an explanation. We'll Photoshop in a second. A second sun on the earlier shot of the rider with the banner.
I don't know. I mean, I hope that they give us some sense of what those masks are all about. Obviously, there could be some rich ritual content to explore in that, but I think it could be a combination of anonymity and protection from the sun.
I hope nobody falls into a Sarlacc pit.
The first, so we get the rider, and then we get the two figures, obviously Nuri and the stranger walking down, and then we get the first masked figure lowering their hand. So I think that's definitely the telescope that they were looking through. I think they're connecting that. But then I don't know if we jump then to the line of riders here. I think the first rider actually might be a woman too. Just by the physical form.
Right. Yeah.
So,
could be.
But yeah, these are really interesting. These are really kind of wild and outlandish. Even the armor on the horse almost looks like it's almost like dragon spine scales coming down.
Right.
So
right. It is a very unusual cultural image.
Yeah.
I could not say, oh yes, yes, the first one, because of the long pointy nose, could be looking like a plague mask from medieval Europe, but I'm not getting any particular cultural vibes from these. Whoever did these designs, very, very creative. I wonder if it was John Howe initially, or if it was somebody new altogether. But
yeah. Well, Rune is like the most blank slate thing.
I was just going to ask that. Yeah.
Exactly. We know virtually nothing about Rune except it's in the east and it supplied Sauron with a bunch of armies.
Right.
And they could go ahead.
And the two blue wizards went out that way.
Right.
Maybe. In some tellings, because Tolkien can't make up his mind on anything.
Right. In one age or another age, again, depending on which telling.
And in going out into this unknown place, out to the east or whatever, they could have easily fallen off a cultural appropriation cliff in terms of borrowing, using, being inspired by steppes, the Mongolian horse rider, who knows, all kinds of, or just quote unquote Orientalism, weird other stuff. And it looks like like we were just saying, I don't detect any particular individual cultural thing. I mean, I'm not, I'm not an anthropologist per se, but this looks pretty cool, design, unique. Like they really did create something new for this, and I appreciate that.
I absolutely agree, David. When I first caught that shot of the rider across the desert, I got a sort of a Lawrence of Arabia vibe.
Sure.
Thought,
yeah, of course.
And then the masks, and I'm like, okay, fine. This is new territory. I love it.
Yeah.
Let's see what we've got here.
Yeah, I mean, again, blank slate. It does seem like they're pulling in elements that are not necessarily part of that, and I think this might be the thing I'm most nervous about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because there's no guardrails. They could just do all kinds of wild stuff.
And they're already showing me that they're bringing in other things that I hold pretty sacred to myself. And if they mess up Tom Bombadil, I'm gonna be mad. I'm just gonna say it now.
Yep, you're fine.
I'm not gonna prejudge it, even though there's no yellow hat, and I'm already angry about that. But
was it a yellow hat? I know it had a blue feather in it.
Okay. Tom Bombadil.
Bright blue his
yellow
jacket was,
hat.
and his
yellow
boots were yellow.
It's yellow boots.
It's the boots that were yellow.
Bright blue his jacket is, and his boots are yellow.
Boots are yellow.
All right.
Exactly.
All right. I'll back down on that. But my point is, Tom Bombadil is certainly a jolly fellow, a merry fellow, and we barely see him crack a smile in this trailer. And I'm just hoping that it's a fake out. I hope that as he talks to the stranger, he is like, well, that's all right. We'll set you up over here and this and that. He does have sage advice, and he can be serious, but he also has just a levity to him that makes you feel otherworldly. And it's such a unique thing in Tolkien. They couldn't even figure out how to put it into the movies. And I feel like they need to really, they could have left it out and it would have been fine. So if you're going to bring him in, you need to do it right.
Well, could I put a possible piece of perspective before you?
Not if it contradicts me.
It offers an explanation for a both and.
Okay.
This is the second age. Absolutely, this so far doesn't show a lot of similarity to the Tom Bombadil of the third age that we all know and love. It might have taken him a couple thousand years to get to that point. We know he had to have traveled outside of the old forest because he had names. He had names from the dwarves. He had names from humans. He had names from regions. He has now bounded himself to a very small location, which implies that he hasn't always been just stuck there. And it could be that the jolliness and the joy and the love of his land and so forth comes from having lived through some really tough crises and recognizing that the focus on the joy of life is what's become important and valuable to him. He may be figuring himself out as well, as much as the stranger at this point.
I'm going to argue both for and against myself now.
Okay, let me hear it.
Okay, for myself is, if you were talking about lifespans here, he's eldest, right? He is eldest. And if we're saying that Elrond can't change that much in 60 years, well, I don't think Tom Bombadil can change that much in 2,000 years. At the same time, perhaps if Tom Bombadil is this mystical figure that we don't know who he is, perhaps Tom Bombadil appears as he's needed. And
I like that.
And perhaps the hobbits needed someone joyful to get the warmth back in their hearts before they went and faced the ring wraiths again.
I like that a lot, Sean. I think that's lovely.
And the stranger doesn't need that, right? He needs somebody who's serious, has sage wisdom, and is ready to direct him on his path.
And yeah, I did find that a touch ironic. Because, again, the third age Bombadil clearly is not about doing. He's about being by then.
Yeah.
And so now in the second age Bombadil, he is about doing, but he's telling other people to do. So,
right.
That was an interesting alternative.
Or perhaps he's just on his own quest, right?
Could be. Trying to figure out, recognizing a huge, enormous danger.
Right.
and trying to figure out what is his contribution, what can he provide or not provide. And it's interesting because my own headcanon of what is Tom Bombadil is that he's the embodiment of the original song. And the original song contains great sorrow.
Right.
And loss. So, in that sense, he can be whatever it is he needs and wants to be at any given time, which is another way of saying pretty much what you said.
I like that, Marilyn. David, can we get the Bombadil thoughts from you?
I don't have a lot of Bombadil thoughts. I can say honestly, I will be honest in my statements that when I was, the times that I've read Lord of the Rings and we get to Bombadil, just was like a lot of other people like WTF, flip.
Yeah.
Moving on now before Bombadil gets more disrespect.
Well, one more thing.
not disrespect, just like I don't think I was able to understand. I didn't have a place to put him. He was so, because he is so jolly and over the top and vivacious, and
he's a merry fellow.
In that scene with the hobbits, and when you need some levity because it's like, boy, this is gonna suck. And so seeing him like serious and straightforward here in this, I was like, oh wait, it took me a minute to realize that. Oh wait, is that's Tom Bombadil? I mean, he's not speaking in rhyme and dancing a little jig and what have you. And so it really, I don't know what they're doing. I don't have any context. I'm a little bit nervous because when he puts on that hat later on, I'm a little bit like, oh, that's a little bit too on the nose in some ways. So I am nervous about what they're going to do with Tom Bombadil. So.
Well, in an article, the showrunners said that I think they said about 1/5 of his lines will be Tolkien's words.
Okay.
Which would be interesting to see. And he did,
Merry doll.
He did actually say that in the early encounter, the stranger says, "Who are you?" And he does reply, "Eldest."
I like that. Ring-a-ding-dillo, it's Tom Bombadillo.
There is a foundation. Maybe he doesn't get that jolly until he finally gets Goldberry,
He needs his sweet... How does he describe her in the song? Let's see. Goldberry, Goldberry, merry yellow berry-o. Poor old willow man, you tuck your roots away. Tom's in a hurry now. Evening will follow day. I love the songs of Tom Bombadil, and I hope...
I do too.
Yeah.
And his form of magic is very, very Suomalainen in nature, i.e. Finnish. He's very much like a character named Väinämöinen from the Kalevala.
Okay.
So I've also loved him from the start. And the people who use magic in the Kalevala do it by singing.
Right.
So
let's go on to Pharazôn. The first time we've seen him in the trailer, it felt like he was much more prominent in the last one. But it looks like he's in the Palantir.
Do you want to cut the cultists thing there, John?
Where was it? I thought I scrolled down. I went to a different Bombadil. Sorry.
Right. We've got Nuri saying a very earnest line.
Without her usual hairstyling accoutrement.
To help my friend find his destiny. Is that a good accent?
No, that was terrible.
No,
who is my dialogue coach?
No, it was not good.
Who is my dialogue coach? I'm going to keep that Deadpool line forever.
And then we get some mothy moths.
And if I could finish my Deadpool quote, I forgot about this till Alicia reminded me. It's who is your dialogue coach? I feel like we're missing out on some very important exposition here.
Correct.
And go on.
Well, I have a question about this figure because the figure in the middle looks like one of the elven figures who is a new addition to Eregion, to the Smiths. So I'm maybe conflating two people who look alike, but if in fact this is a spy for the cultists who are in turn reporting to Sauron, but why should they if Anatar is already there? So I don't know, but...
Interesting snaky armor that she's wearing. I just put in a new picture in the notes there. You can see her designs a little bit more. And then there's a staff that is being raised up as these moths, these light moths are flying up. And that looks very interesting because it's got these two curved horns sort of coming up and out of them. So,
right. And with the snake thing, it looks a lot like that little garbly mess we saw bubbling out of the ground in the last teaser.
ooh.
Ah, nice catch, John.
Interesting.
I'm trying to decide if that staff looks anything like the staff we saw the three cultists using in the first season. Initial glance says no, but it's kind of dark. It's hard to tell.
Those, what did we used to call them?
Hissy sisters.
The Hissy sisters. Is this where they are from? Are they dispatched from this temple?
It appears to be so.
That's my theory.
Yeah.
And when the stranger banished them, go back to the shadow from which you came, he did not destroy them. He did not kill them.
Mm-hmm.
They transformed into moths because it's a heck of a lot harder to completely kill a being that is in all kinds of fluttery pieces going over the place. So I think that's one of their defensive mechanisms. And then in the teaser, we saw the moths coming through the doorway into the person with the bleeding palms. And, I'm expecting that's going to be another interesting ritual of regeneration or...
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Reforming or, coming back together. And so I don't know if this person is about to dissolve into moths or is building back up to wholeness after having been mothed. I don't know.
All right.
Go either way.
Yep. We got to keep this breakdown moving. We're already an hour and 40. We're like halfway done with this. All right. So
we're not even halfway through the trailer.
So, all right, let's keep going here. Stranger loses Nori in a snowstorm, in a sandstorm, rather. Seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
And there's somebody behind Nori who I'm theorizing right now is the other Harfoot that we're going to meet out there in the east.
Oh yeah, you're right. I can see that now. Yeah, good pick.
We've done Bombadil to death, so let's move on to Pharazôn.
Poor Bombadil.
Pharazôn, what's going on with the Palantir? What's he doing?
Yeah, that's just weird.
Cool ass visual though. The way it explodes sort of out. It kind of reminds me of I know there were some scenes in some of the Star Trek Next Generation movies where they're like in an astral mapping space and like things sort of, or what is that Minority Report, with the visual screens. It gives me a lot of that vibe, but it goes from blue to red. So we've got some flaminess here that then transforms into the Balrog thing. So is that explicitly connected? Is he getting secret signals through the Palantir?
Question is, who else has a Palantir, because they're connected?
Yeah, exactly. And I think this may be the showrunners being tricksy and false.
Okay.
Cutting from one thing to another. I mean, it may very well go into flame at the end, but I don't know that there's necessarily a direct connection. I'm trying to figure out, is the Palantir actually fracturing? Because if it is, that is extraordinary. Yeah. They were made to not break under just about any circumstances except possibly being tossed into Mount Doom.
Once the Palantir, so it kind of visually explodes, and then we cut the point of view, and then his hand is still there and it's flaming, but it still looks like it's holding its spherical shape, but the light is coming out of it. So I think it's not. I'm going to say it's not.
Okay.
All right. So speaking of fire, Anatar is looking into a fire. Not a lot of info there, but then we get the Balrog. First big look at the Balrog. I feel like we could debate all day whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, but the reality is they are bringing in the Balrog to this era, and I don't think we're ever going to see an early Third Age piece of on-screen media except the War of Rohirrim, so I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I understand the temptation. I'm somewhat sorry that they yielded to it, but I'm even more sorry that they decided not to have the proper descent of the line of kings of dwarves, and that they have a Durin, 3 and 4 both existing generation to generation. They didn't have to do that, really. I mean, one of them could have been the Doran, probably the one who survives, unless they both survive through all 5 seasons. But I big leave to doubt that the current King Doran, is going to be around much longer.
Right.
But okay, they did it. It's done.
Yeah.
Let's see how they handle it. Hopefully, they will do some really interesting, exciting things with it.
Looks cool visually.
Exactly.
Visually looks great.
Cool. The rule of cool, I think, in this case was the guiding principle.
And as the Balrog is falling, it jumping or whatever it's doing, it manifests some sort of weapon in its hand that grows and extends out. It looks really cool.
It's like a massive staff kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a whip at all. So,
yeah.
Maybe he missed those lessons in Thangorodrim.
Well, how many Balrog were there?
7 or so.
So they would have different tools and weapons for their individual purpose.
Except they do talk about the Balrog whips were the worst of their weapons. So I don't know. He's branching out.
He learned
some tricks from I don't know who at some point in his sojourns.
So we've got some Doran v Doran action next. We've got Doran 4 trying to take Doran 3's ring off, and then getting kicked down the steps.
Yep.
Any other thoughts on that?
That glance that we saw the very first time we saw very much reminded me of the look on Bilbo's face when Gandalf was trying to convince him to leave the ring behind. At the point at which he says, "Is it so hard?" And Bilbo says, "Well, no, and yes." And it's the "and yes" face that I really see.
Right. Yes.
In that previous image.
And in this one, with that previous image, very at the beginning, about 15 seconds in, he's sort of, the camera angle is sort of the way it's angled and the way that he's looking up and the lighting. Yes. And then the ring is in the shot as well. And he's looking very, he's actually holding an axe in that scene. And he's looking very sort of paranoid. Like the ring is working its ill will on him.
Right. Which is interesting because, again, the dwarves were not dominated by the rings. They were made more greedy. But that's not really the same thing as being dominated and seeking power.
Yeah.
They seek wealth, but not power, right?
Their hearts were inflamed with gold lust, if you want to call it that.
If you look at that scene where Doran 3 is sort of smacking Doran 4 back, where he goes gets the wire pull on the up there behind the throne, it's piled with gold plates and things.
Yes, it's also got that same pile of gold in that first scene I was talking about, where he gets the Bilbo look on his face.
Yeah, he's got his precious with him.
Yeah. Hoarding.
Yeah, definitely hoarding. And that definitely was something that could have been fired up by the dwarf ring.
So now we've got some more yada yadas I got to do. We've got the pouring of some molten metal by Anatar and another figure. We've got a bridge being destroyed in Khazad-dûm, it looks like, maybe?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
Okay.
It seems that they can pass, you said. Excellent.
I'm just joking around as always.
Looks like a big boulder falling down.
Right, right. Perhaps the Balrog knocked into something or whatnot. Yeah. But then we get Disa and Doran together. Disa says, "I'm afraid, Doran." Of what? I wonder.
Lots of things. The change of power being destabilized. Duran 3 to Duran 4, right? So, yeah.
I think she's afraid of the ring and the effect that it's having on Duran 3.
Yeah.
Could be. And then we get the darkness will bind them, to which I say, we get it, you read the poem.
Yes, seriously. Exactly the same clip that we had from the teaser.
Which, I guess the point is, you can't assume everyone saw the teaser, so let's make sure it's in the trailer. That's fine.
Yeah, fair point. And I think it was David who said, darkness will bind them can very easily mean facing the darkness will bind together all of the peoples who are resisting Sauron.
Did I say that?
I thought it was you.
Okay.
Take credit for it. You enjoy it.
Sounds very
I know
nice.
I didn't invent it myself. I heard somebody else say
Okay.
it. So go ahead. Take the credit. Listeners, write in if you know who it actually was.
Take me down.
Don't write in. Let David take the credit.
No. We want the feedback. We want the feedback. There's a behind the I and L in Will, there's a group of people there on the cliffside. And then if you look up above the word bind, up at the top of the cliff, there's a whole lot of people up there as well.
Yeah.
So whatever's happening here with what's her name here? Sorry.
Muriel.
Thank you. Going into the water. Is that the same scene? Is that what's happening here?
Yes, it is. And I'm very...
What is she doing? Why is she doing this?
She is being forced to walk into the water to confront the sea monster. Remember earlier on we saw the floaty white dress figure of a woman in the underwater?
Right, yeah.
And I was speculating that this was the drowning of Elendil's wife. Well, I'm afraid it's Muriel going through a purity test. I'll call it that because it's basically like a witchcraft test.
I was just going to say, yeah.
If you survive the monster, then you're okay.
Huh, interesting.
But if you don't know how to swim, gosh, what a shame.
Right.
Right.
And if you can't see, gosh, even
I'm
more
sorry, you're not adapted to breathe underwater. Oh, well, you're a witch.
Gee, I forgot about that part. So this is going to make for very interesting ritual analysis in a couple of years, or however long it is before we start our second season of Rings and Rituals.
So we'll see how long it takes them to do a season 3. My God, these people need to do closer together seasons. We can't go 20 years on a single show.
Yeah, Kemen has already aged significantly, I gotta say. I don't know if you've seen pictures of the actor. And it's like, holy cow.
David, you were going to say something?
Well, just into the transition of the scene with Bombadil and the stranger looking over this parched land. I was just going to comment, on the next visual scene. We go from ocean, wet, abundance of water to an absence of water.
Nice.
Yeah. So like you said, we go back into Rune. We've got Bombadil and the stranger kind of looking together. Will you abandon them to their doom? Again, Tom Bombadil is a merry fellow. His boots are yellow and his jacket blue. All right. Anyway, the point is, not sure we get that Bombadil here.
No, not yet. I think they're standing on the destroyed groves of the Antwives. And this is what we later know of as the Brown Lands in the Third Age. Because, Bombadil would very definitely be cognizant of, if not in communication with, the Ents and the Antwives.
A displeased Bombadil. And we're back in Khazad-dûm. David, you go ahead.
Yeah, no, we have a quick shot of an orc striking down, and I think this is from the siege that we see later on.
Okay.
And then, we go to Khazad-dûm and we have the mirrors lighting up, but things don't look this looks like after bad things have happened.
What I think is somebody is using the mirrors as a weapon.
Oh, interesting.
The light's coming in from the hole in the wall and striking on that incredibly powerful mirror, which is then reflecting
down.
Are those two figures in the doorway there?
Down there. There's certainly two figures up and to the right of the mirror.
Of the mirror.
Yeah.
That could be a pretty potent way of keeping out enemies.
Interesting. Right? Okay.
Interesting.
But I don't know.
And Celebrimbor going, "What have you done to me?"
Right. So he's committed. He's realizing he's done something. He's made a very what's the line? A tiny big mistake.
I've made a huge tiny mistake.
Huge tiny mistake. Yeah.
Yeah. You want me to put the GIF? I'll put the GIF in. Don't worry. I've made a huge tiny mistake. Let's see. Let's get you a nice. Anyway, read the next scene, David, while I get my huge tiny mistake.
He's going to have some splaining to do.
So then we get this city under siege, clearly an elven city. I'm not sure where. Again, geography, I'm also with John, not fully up on it. But I can see a bridge over water in the background, and then we see Anatar walking as a flaming catapult missile comes crashing across.
Yeah, I think he wanted to get away before his nice robes were singed.
Right. So is this Celebrimbor's?
Yeah, probably a Region. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a Region.
I think that's what we're leading up to. I think
Okay.
that is going to be either the penultimate or finale episode of the season is the fall of a Region.
Okay.
I think so too.
And then we have Adar saying, leave Sauron to me. And is that the sword that caused so much problems in the first season to his left?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I think it's his own sword. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he's putting that crown on now. Right?
On somebody, yeah.
And he's doing it. So because one of my thoughts originally when I saw the crown was, is this his orc forging thing? Is this how he was made into an orc from an elf? But I don't think so. I think this is just, unless he's turning another elf into an orc. But I think he is going to bind Sauron somehow to this dark form.
Okay. Well, whoever that is has longer hair.
Hmm.
Waffa, waffa, waffa.
Okay.
Indeed. Promise me, Elrond.
So now, just prior to that, there's a figure that has several arrows sticking out of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks kind of like Galadriel to me.
Well, we know she's fine in the Third Age, so let's all calm down now. Let's all settle down.
I think those of us who know the lore know exactly who that is.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Unless they're being really tricksy precious.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. We're trying to skirt. See, it's hard, right? With something like this, where like this is all like the same soup we've been living in the lore of for like 50 years. But it's really like 70 years now, isn't it?
Yep.
And this is something that is referenced in the Lord of the Rings as the known history. And yet we're trying to not spoil certain plot beats that people might not know or remember specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So then we have Elrond looking like he's about to, caress Galadriel. But then there's a hand that we don't know if it's Elrond. Marilyn, you've got a theory?
I do have a theory, John. And it was borrowed from Matt of Nerd of the Rings. I like this idea very much. These are two separate scenes, and that the hand that is touching Galadriel's face is actually Celeborn.
Mm. And you say you want Celebrian to be born?
Well, not immediately. I mean, even elves have to take a little while to produce a baby.
Yeah, Galadriel's like, I'm out for seasons 3 and 4. I'm on maternity leave, actually.
Well, I think I'm leaving now with this ring in the aftermath of destruction of Eregion and going to a place of safety. Because, again, lore piece here, elves do not want to have children when there is violence and disruption in the world.
And perhaps Arondir is part of the way that she decides to settle with Sylvan elves.
Oh, I like that. I like that a lot.
Maybe that's her
because
gateway.
she's already encountered him. She's already encountered him in the first season. So
it definitely looks like Elrond is wearing his armor here in this scene when he's reaching out, or who just before the reach out. So,
I mean, it could be that she's telling him, "I have to bow out at this point."
Mm-hmm. Right, I got to get out of here. Promise me you'll be safe.
Promise me you will continue the fight against Sauron. Right, because for right now, I have to be AWOL. I have to do this other thing.
And I think she's realizing that like the fight for vengeance is really creating a darkness within her that she can't keep feeding.
Yes.
And I think that is really interesting character development that you don't see in a lot of places, which is I have to leave the main fight if we're going to succeed.
Yeah. I really hope that's it, John. I think that would be wonderful.
We'll be writing season 3. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Good.
So you will not stop until he is destroyed. We have Elrond with his battle armor looking pretty beat up.
If you look in the background of the siege weapons and the orcs crossing the river, there's a bridge there, which you can see in the background of a preceding scene. So I think this is all part of the siege of Eregion, did you say?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah, I think that's what we're going to see.
Yeah.
I finally see in the next shot Tom Bombadil cracking a smile. Kinda. a little bit. He's like, he looks a little aloof. I'm trying, guys. I'm really trying to make this Bombadil feel like Bombadil.
I don't love this shot. It's a little bit too much for me. So
a Bombadil?
Yeah, of the hat, the way he's doing the hat and looking at the camera, it's just a little too. It's a little too B grade rather than A grade.
Well, wake now, my merry lads. Wake and hear me calling. Warm now, be heart and limb. The cold stone has fallen. I mean, every time Tom Bombadil's mentioned, I'm going to read another section of his poems.
You go. You go.
All right. Arondir is doing his one move next.
Right. But he's looking up at the Ent, I think, right?
Yeah, I think he's looking at the Ent wave.
Well, again, as they are cutting and
yeah, but there's a bunch of
changing. But I think you're right.
Yeah, it's something around this time because there's a bunch of the leaves falling behind him.
Yeah. And John, very good eyes to pick out that those are flowers.
Yes.
Yeah, the flowery
is that a magnolia
top. I really think that this is an Entwife, and I will say the voice is notably higher.
Yes,
than somebody
and faster.
Yeah. Maybe they just got tired of waiting for the Ents, and that's why they kept moving on.
Yeah, if you can't say a sentence in under 5 minutes.
Is it a kind of a magnolia tree? That's what this kind of looks like to me.
It makes me think of apple blossom.
Okay.
And also the Ents are not trees, right? They don't even want to be called trees.
Sure.
Absolutely not.
Right. They are shepherds of the trees.
Right.
Yeah. They just resemble them.
Yeah, I was just the resemblance of the flower. Yeah, I was just trying to pick something.
I think she resembles a very old apple tree.
Okay.
All right.
In the same way that Peter Jackson's Treebeard represented a very old oak tree.
Okay.
Yep. And then we get this back and forth between Elrond and what's his name? Yeah, Doran. It's getting late. Doran the Fourth. I need your axe, old friend.
Right.
Once again with the Peter Jackson echo.
Mm-hmm. A ship in Numenor, followed by this is a curious scene. Elendil walking through a crowd. What's going on here? Is this a funeral procession for Isildur? Is he being honored or banished? Is this some kind of like ascension to another military rank? What's going on?
Well, the gentleman to his left, no, to his right, our left, are all holding clothes in their arms like recruits would be after they've been issued their new uniforms.
I was seeing scrolls, but you have a better image than I do.
Yeah, no, I see a knife. I see some blue clothing there. It's all the same. I could see why you would think it were scrolls, but I think that's the light of the knives.
All right.
It sort of looks.
They've got their Boy Scout packs, David.
Yep.
Okay, I see there is a knife there now. They just, because of the drapery, I was getting a sort of a Builder's Guild vibe.
Agreed. I thought that as much myself.
And I'm pretty sure that is Eärien at the very back end. If you follow the line of people on the left and then look a little bit to the right and you see the person in the blue dress, I'm pretty sure that's Eärien.
Okay, yeah.
Next up, we've got Disa and Narvi looking so tough that I fear for the Balrog.
Yeah.
Do not fuck with Disa.
And Narvi is a new dwarf. Let's not say too much about him right now, but I think he will play a major part this season.
I think so too.
All right, Isildur fighting off
a
baby spider. I don't know if we should.
That's an alien joke.
Oh, okay, sorry. I did see the trailer for Alien Romulus when I went to go see Deadpool, and I was like, "Oh, this looks pretty good. I might go see it."
Yeah.
Well, can I share that one of my theories has been confirmed?
Yeah, I think so. I think you see a spider, you know what that is in Tolkien.
Yeah, it is in fact Shelob. It's just a much younger, much smaller Shelob. Give her 3,000 years and she'll be everything that you want her to be.
Yeah.
Because Isildur, having been left behind on the former Southlands, ruins, is also going to be making his way towards Pelagir, which hopefully he knows about, or at least the sea. And the only way to do that from that part of Mordor is through the pass, which will eventually be known as Cirathungol.
All right, cool.
All right, Doran is saying, "Fight with me, fight with our friends."
He looks a little cranky there.
He sure does.
And then we get a big wide shot of people all gathered around at Khazad-dûm. So, are they rallying the troops?
I think they are.
Yeah.
I think he's got a hard rally on his hands because I think that the friends that he is naming here are the elves, and that's got to be a hard sell for an awful lot of dwarves.
Right. Then we see one of the Entwives, or I guess the Entwife. It probably, maybe this is the only one we ever meet. She's fighting. She's going for it.
Yeah. I don't know who she's fighting at this point, but...
And Galadriel is back in her one battle move, firing an arrow.
From horseback.
Is she on horseback? Oh, she is on horseback.
Yeah,
Sorry,
is.
I thought she was just doing a wide stance because it was a little dark.
No, horseback.
And then Arondir is he catching an arrow in that?
No, he's got a knife in his hand.
He's got a knife, okay.
And just before that, we get a quick battle scene from what we're assuming is Eregion.
No time. No time for battles.
Forward. And then we get, Arondir. Ooh, yeah. Stabbing somebody. Oh, and this goes back to the fight that we see him in the previous teaser, where he does a flip and stuff. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Next up, it looks like General Belrios dropping a ring into the fire, right?
Bats falling down on Disa.
Is it Círdan or is it not?
I think it's... No, I think it's Celebrimbor.
You think it's Celebrimbor?
I do.
All right.
Because how would Círdan have gotten
that's Celebrimbor.
Hold of the 9 rings?
He's just looking real bad.
That's Celebrimbor.
Well, yes.
My whole thing is reloading.
Considering what he has gone through, and I won't say any more.
We did miss the scene prior to this of Disa being of a bunch of bats coming down around Disa. So this is
that was interesting.
So, but it's moving on.
Yeah. I tried to get most of the major shots in this without going totally nuts because it's already like a 4-minute trailer and every single second.
It took how many hours have we spent collectively on this already?
Exactly. All right. Cool. So next we get the eagle. Sorry, I lost my spot when my page reloaded.
Yeah,
I was very glad for this because it definitely shows that Farazan was not riding the eagle into
agreed
the hall of Numenor there.
So. But we know that Manwë is sending a message, and I doubt it's nice.
I doubt it is too. I'm wondering if this is before or after Muriel was in.
Oh, interesting thought. Yeah, where I don't see her in the crowd here. Anyway, okay, moving on.
Eregion looks like it's being attacked by flaming projectiles. Yep. We've talked about the siege. Same thing, just different shot next. And then we've got... that is Celebrimbor, right?
It is him, totally him.
It is Celebrimbor.
Yeah, okay. So that's Celebrimbor looking very, very disheveled, but holding a ring, which I think is going to be one of the Manus rings, right?
Okay.
Yeah, that... since we already have the other two groups forged, what else is left?
Which then he says, give me the 9, so...
He also says, give me the 9, which is pretty good confirmation.
You will give me the 9.
Yeah. Pretty boy wants the 9.
Then we get a troll, which looks pretty cool, stomping through, with a bunch of skulls on its belt. That's pretty wicked.
Of course, you got to bring the trolls if you're in a work army. Come on, we got to take down the city.
And then...
Yeah, they were a lot bigger in the Second Age, weren't they?
Then Galadriel?
Yep, doing a Matrix move.
Doing a Carrier and Moss.
Yep.
That's funny.
And then a double fire arrow.
Yep, she is definitely into... Again, these elves, they got one move. Knock the bow.
Well, I'm sure they could do many other moves.
I don't think so, Marilyn.
The showrunners would put it into the script.
Come on. Visual language says elves shoot bows, men use swords, and that's that.
And then they get on horses and they charge cavalry with swords and spears.
Now, Marilyn, you had some speculation on the question I asked about the next scene, which is Elrond shouting in Quenya or Sindarin?
Yeah, good question.
No, it's Sindarin, because by this time, Quenya is only a language of lore.
I think you're right, yeah.
Like Latin is today, and very few elves would even understand it. The high elves, the Noldor, would have been taught to read it, and sometimes in the first stage in particular, they would speak it amongst themselves. But I don't think he's got an army full of high elves and Noldor at this point.
I don't think there's
he's
enough.
got a whole bunch of all kinds of elves, and Sindar is now the common language.
Oh, this is interesting. I'm on this cavalry charge.
Mm-hmm.
This is a regrouped force that is taking the orcs from the other side, because behind the line of battle of the orcs is the burnt out city.
Right.
So they're coming in from behind them. So the orcs have had to reorient.
Yes.
And whether they've lost a region and this is like a reformed unit or a unit from another location. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
And this follows pretty closely to what the lore says about the actual battle.
Okay.
So, Wurthni Hordath Min.
Very nice.
I do love what's his name here? I'm trying to
Robert Aramayo.
Yeah, I love him with this line. It's the most vocal, it's the most intense that I've seen him in this. And the way he delivers the diction of the Elvish, sounds good to me. I mean, I'm no Elvish, scholar, but to me, I am so sold on this line, and just the look on his face and the whole thing. Yeah, I'm just like, ooh, I'm excited.
Yeah, it really caught me too, and I think this is after the point at which Galadriel says, "Promise me."
Right?
Yeah. Elrond has taken that seriously, and he is stepping up.
I think there's a reason that he's at the front of the charge and she's not.
Exactly.
Right.
My one criticism visually so far is on the line of horses charging. It's the most that you can tell it's CGI. If you kind of look, it's like, oh yeah, these are just copy and pasted groups of horses running. I mean, I'm sure they had real ones and then they just replicated them. Anyway,
fill them in. Yeah.
I'm sure Elrond wishes he could have copied and pasted 10 times as much.
Exactly.
That's what he had there.
Right. So
the line of orcs facing the charge, though, it's pretty funny because the actors are all like flipping the bird and like, going, come on, you stinking elves. So yeah,
come and get some.
Exactly.
Right.
It looks great.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Completely disorganized compared to the elves that are just in formation, and who knows which will succeed. We'll never know if Elrond will survive into the Third Age.
Have you heard of this little thing called plot armor?
He's got plenty of it.
You can look really closely and you can see that he's wearing that. It's sort of in the designs and in his shield. And
it's a lot of that plot armor in a prequel series.
Exactly.
So yeah, the next shot is just more battle shots, but looks cool.
Yep. Exciting. Good way to end the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to, since we're done, I forgot to mention this earlier to both of you. When we were in the UK on holiday the other week, we were in East Yorkshire. We were up at Hull, and there we went to the aquarium there, and in the bookshop there was a book that I bought called Tolkien in East Yorkshire, 1917 to 1918, an illustrated tour. And the author, Matheson, who seems to be like a local guy, kind of a quasi self-published thing, wrote a whole book that documents Tolkien's time while he's convalescing and being bounced around, and Edith going up. And she went to this one town thinking he was going to be there, and then they bounced him another town. And went, So, but his whole tour of Yorkshire. And so this guy's documented all the locations and the places and narrates the entire thing. I haven't finished reading it, but I thought it was pretty interesting. So.
Right.
It's had very good
kind of a fun,
very cool.
a fun
one
piece
of these
of
days
lore.
I need to get a copy. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited. Thank you, David. That was a lovely detail.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'll try to finish it before it starts, and throw in a detail or two.
Very nice.
Cool. Interesting.
Very nice. All right, folks. So that's the end of our coverage today. Let's just do a very quick programming note. So, House of the Dragon going strong. 3 podcasts a week on it. Crazy talk. One of those podcasts is subscriber exclusive and season pass exclusive. So make sure you check that out in the show notes, in the link tree if you want to get that. We've also got another Silmarillion story coming out this week of Beleriand and its realms with New Beta Do Beta. If you know him from the TikToks and the Twitters, really good conversation. The Acolyte Season 1 wrap-up just dropped, and David and I may be in love, according to
You are my dyad.
Deadpool and Wolverine got me to come back to the Marvel universe, and we are we talked about it, me, Alicia, and John, and then they went on without me to do more nerdy talk. And then on the Patreon, we're doing the Karate Kid, doing that for 11Zs, so check that out. And the other thing is Canon Timeline Podcast next week. Alicia's doing Canon Myths of the Old Republic. And on Wolf Shift Dust, she's doing a season 2 of Silo announcement podcast for San Diego Comic-Con stuff, for the air date, casting news, and more. And she's got her own book club on her own personal Patreon where she's doing the Third Shift breakdown.
Alien Romulus, we mentioned that's going to be dropping August 16th. We'll have a reaction podcast to that, sort of a week plus after it comes out, give everybody a chance to see it. But prior to that, we've got 3 other podcasts. We had to recalibrate. We had recorded some stuff. We had some technical problems, so we had to scrap all of those, and we're sort of starting fresh. Oh. But Aisha from Every Single Sci-Fi Film Ever and I are going to tag team talking to a couple of academics about the Alien franchise and the Alien 79 movie. And then her and Ron and I are going to talk about the 45th anniversary of the original movie. And then we also are going to have a short trailer breakdown about the 2 Romulus trailers. So that's all coming. I'm coming.
Excited. Yeah. I think I'm going to go see it. I think it looks like a fun movie. So
when we do the movie reaction, like I'm going to put an all call to the Lorehounds co-hosting, and whoever wants to jump onto that pod, we can have a kind of a round robin.
All right. So, very cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. All right. Quick thank yous. David, I'm throwing it to you.
Okay.
Ready?
Yeah. Gnarls, Aaron K, Tiller the Thriller, Dork of the Ninjas, Doof71, Captain Gingy 56, and Athena Agilea are our Discord server boosters. Thanks for making a better place for our community to come together. To our lore masters, Samartian, Michael G, Michelle E, David W, Brian P, SC, Peter OH, Bettina W, Adam S, Nancy M, and Doof71, Brian 8063, Frederick H, Sarah L, Gareth C, Eric F, Matthew M, Sarah M, DJ Miwa, Andra B, Kwang Yu, Deadeye Jedi Bob, Nathan T, Alex V, Aaron T, Sub-Zero, Aaron K, Dally V, Mothership 61, Gnarls, Kathy W, Stuart B, Jeffrey B, Alicia U, and forever last but never least, Adrian. Thank you all so much for being our top tier subscribers. You help keep the lights on, the bits flowing, and we appreciate you, all of our listeners, to everyone who subscribes and listens, whether you're a subscriber or not. We're just glad you're here. Come join us on the Discord. We have a great time nerding out, talking about all the stories that we love.
It's a mighty fellowship.
All right, everyone. We will see you for our season preview probably next. Good night. The Lorehounds podcast is produced and published by The Lorehounds. You can send questions and feedback and voicemails at thelorehounds.com/contact. Get early and ad-free access to all Lorehounds podcasts at patreon.com/thelorehounds. Any opinions stated are ours personally and do not reflect the opinion of or belong to any employers or other entities. Thanks for listening.